following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View, sponsored by the Nashua City Republican Committee. And if you want, we meet at the Crown Plaza the second Thursday of every month. And if you want to find out more information, you can go to our website at nashuagop.org.
Welcome to The People's View.
Hello, and help me welcome Steve Stepanek, the Honorable Mr. Stepanek, who is a representative, but more important, co-chairman of Donald Trump's campaign here in New Hampshire.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me, Carl. It's a real pleasure to be here on Nashua Community TV and, spend a little time talking about the Trump campaign.
Well, you got into it how many months ago?
I first met Donald Trump. I was at the Freedom Summit in Iowa with Bill O'Brien, and everybody was sort of gathering there, and Bill was one of the guest speakers, and I was there as well as a guest of Dave Bossy, who was sponsoring the event, Citizens United. And of course, Bill and I were people that were being courted by all the candidates because of our conservative values here in New Hampshire, first in the nation primary. And at that point, Mr. Trump wanted to do an event in New Hampshire, and I volunteered. I said I'd done a number of events for various people over the years, Rudy Giuliani, Congressman Bass. I've had John Boehner at my house. I said, we'd love to have you. So on March 19th of 2015, Donald Trump showed up at my house along with 350 of our closest friends and 40 news crews. So we had him hanging from the rafters. But it
was quite a crowd there.
It was. I think you were there.
Yeah, my wife. Too.
And it was a very exciting night, and that was Donald Trump's first appearance in this cycle in New Hampshire. And at that time, I made a commitment. I said, I really appreciate and like your economic plan and your tax plan, and I think I've supported the establishment candidates over the years, and they've all let us down. And I said, I'm ready to go outside the box a little bit. And I said, the day that you announced, because it was very up in the air as to whether Mr. Trump was going to actually announce.
Right.
And I said, the day that you announce that you're running for president is the day that I will endorse you. And so in June, when he came to Manchester Community College to announce that he was running for president of the United States, I introduced him and I endorsed him at that event. And from what I'm told by Corey Lewandowski, his national campaign manager, I was the first elected public official to endorse Donald Trump.
No kidding. Wow. And
so I've been there from the very, very beginning. And believe me, it's been a very exciting, fun, interesting, crazy ride from June until now, almost a year now. Yeah. And I remember early on, a lot of people, both inside and out of politics, said, "Are you nuts? What are you doing? Donald Trump?"
Yeah.
And I said, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And he has.
He surprised me. I really didn't think he was going to go all the way at first. I thought he was just testing waters and see how this political side of, living was.
Well, it's, as I say, I've been on the ground with him. I've introduced him at over 20 events here in New Hampshire and Massachusetts. I've spoken in front of probably 100,000 people who've come to these events. And, the remarkable thing as I followed this is not only did I speak at the events, but I talked with and interacted with all the people in the crowds. And the thing that was most amazing to me, which people are finally starting to understand, is that the people who are coming out are really, really upset with the establishment. They're pissed off. And, you know, they don't see the difference between a Republican running for president and a Democrat running for president, because no matter which one has been in power, the Republicans take care of their friends, the Democrats take care of their friends, but the average person in the middle doesn't see any change in their life, and their life isn't as good as they want it to be. And it's been very stagnant for a very long time, and they don't see the difference between a Democrat and a Republican. We who are involved, I call us political junkies, we're very aware of, you know, the difference between having a Republican or a Democrat in the White House. But the average citizen is not. And they've stopped coming out to vote. And one of the things that people seem still not to get, they talk about, well, you know, how is he going to overcome, you know, the big turnout with the African American voter, the fact that he's down with the Hispanic voter, he isn't as good with women. What I try to get people to focus on is in the last election, 2012, with the record number of African Americans coming out, the record number of Hispanics coming out to vote for Obama and the coalition that he put together, only 53% of the registered voters in America voted. 47% of registered voters. And remember, there's a number of people who are qualified to register who don't even take the time to register.
Right.
And only of the ones who actually are registered, only 47% did not vote. Did not vote. And those are the people that are coming out to Donald Trump rallies. Those are the people who are saying, finally, someone that I can support, someone who may be out there representing me. And that's what I've seen. And I will give you an example. During the summer, I had done a number of events for Donald Trump. A number of people come up. I'm shopping at Shaw's, and a woman in her 50s comes up to me in Shaw's and says, "Excuse me, sir, I know you." I'm like, "I don't think so." She says, No, I've seen you on TV. Don't you work for the Donald Trump campaign? I said, as a matter of fact, yes, I'm his state co-chair. She says, "Will you please tell Mr. Trump that my husband and I and all our friends are supporting him? Finally, someone who is saying all the things we want to say but we're afraid to say. Finally, someone who can't be bought. Tell him my husband hasn't voted for anyone since Ronald Reagan, and he's voting for Donald Trump."
Wow.
That is what's been happening over and over again. I've had people coming up to me at rallies all excited. I registered to vote so I can vote for Donald Trump. And one of the things that all the pundits said when we had this huge outflow of people who are coming to these events, tens of thousands of people showing up. Yeah, they're showing up because he's a personality. It's fun. It's exciting. But they're not going to come out and vote. Well, I'm here to tell you that the Republican turnout in primaries across this country, year to date, is up 64%. Democratic turnout is down by 24%. That's the Trump factor, I like to call it, because that is, people are excited about it. They are seeing somebody who is going to stand up to the status quo. They're going to stand up and represent them and fight for them, and they're not going to back down. They're not going to be politically correct. And that's what Donald Trump is about. He is going to stand up for America. He's going to stand up for the people of America. What I've said in so many times in the speeches that I give is the fact that Donald Trump is a businessman first. He understands business. He's got a wonderful tax plan. He's going to be phenomenal for this economy. But he's also got the ability to identify a problem and then surround himself with the best people to solve that problem.
Nice to hear that.
Which he has done over and over again. So many of these people who have been president, like, for example, our current president, think he is the one who has all the answers. So he doesn't seek the advice from the best people, the best minds out there, because he's got all the answers. Well, Donald Trump is a very, very smart, brilliant man. But part of his brilliance is that he knows that no individual has all the answers. So he seeks out the best minds for every problem.
And not just ones with his background.
No,
He goes.
he brings them in from no matter what. And a perfect example, the delegate situation, which, being from New Hampshire, I never understood how different it was in other states. I mean, I think we do it right here in New Hampshire, where we do it proportionally, and then the candidate gets to appoint the delegates for him, who you know that he's been allotted.
Right.
In other states, it's way different, as we've all learned.
We've heard
this
on
cycle.
different, yeah, there must be a dozen different ways of doing it.
Right, and so Donald Trump wasn't fully aware of how different it was, and after he lost a couple of delegate battles, he's like, okay, we got a problem here. He went out, he got Paul Manafort, he got a number of qualified, the top people who understood exactly what was going on here. And within 6 weeks, he turned it around. So in Pennsylvania, when they had 54 uncommitted delegates, he had a program in place. We got 40 of those. Were elected, because they're all individually elected. 40 of them were Trump supporters.
Good.
We had which I worked very hard on, we had to elect all the delegates down in Massachusetts, 27 delegates. We had, at that point, a whole program put together. We had slates of candidates. We got out on social media. Out of the 27 slots, 25 of them were elected Trump supporters. So in a period of 6 weeks, he figured out, this is the problem, these are the people I need, here's the solution, and he turned things around. That's what he's going to do for this country. I think people recognize that. And, you know, I tell people, he's the reason the establishment is afraid of Donald Trump is because they don't control him. Right. He doesn't owe them anything. He doesn't owe the sugar lobby or the tobacco lobby or this lobby or that lobby. He's his own man. He only has one lobbyist that he's concerned about, one constituency, and that's the American people. That's the only person that he's beholden to and that he's responsible for, and he really appreciates that. So it's a very exciting campaign. It's been phenomenal. I think he's going to be a wonderful president.
He has there's so many things to talk about. I don't know where to go. You talked about the tax plan. Maybe you can say what's the highlight of his tax plan?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to understand is that businesses are not the enemy. You know, the creation of wealth, from my old Economics 101 course, the creation of wealth is not a bad thing. That's what everything starts from. And then the state comes in and for necessary services will take and tax some of the profits and take some of the wealth that is created by business. The state in and of itself does not create wealth. It redistributes it. And what has happened is we have developed under the Democratic administrations this attitude and this belief that the businesses are evil people. They're not.
And they make lots of money and take it from the people.
The primary purpose of a business is to make a product, sell it, and make a profit. That's what they're supposed to do. And we have the highest business tax in the developed world, barring none. I mean, you go to Germany, you go to England, you go to Ireland, you go to France, Italy. They're all significantly lower than our taxes here in this country. And one of the things that he wants to do is lower that business tax so businesses can have more money to reinvest and create more jobs, create more wealth. And in the end, every time there's been a major tax reduction, starting with Kennedy back in the 60s, and going to Ronald Reagan in the 80s, there has been, within 2 to 3 years, a significant increase in economic activity. When Reagan passed in 1982 his tax reduction plan, within 3 years, the economy was growing at 7.9% a year. We're limping along for year 6 or 7 in our economic
2 to 3%.
if
If
we're
that.
lucky.
Yeah.
If we're lucky. I mean, can you imagine if instead of, I mean, we just grew at an average of, I think, 0.4 something percent, 0.04. It was like less than 0.5% in the first quarter of this year. In a Reagan recovery, we were growing at 4 times that, 5 times that. We were growing at over 2%. That kind of growth creates jobs, creates growth in income for all American workers, which we're not seeing. Our income levels are totally static. The other thing he's talking about is the money that's trapped overseas. A business has and I'll give you an example. A U.S. company has a subsidiary in England. Now, they manufacture the goods in England. They use the English system, the roads, the electricity. Everything is England. There's nothing from the U.S. It's an English-made product. They sell it in England. They make a profit. They pay the English tax, which is, I think, 20%. Now that company, U.S. company, wants to bring that money back into the U.S. Remember, the U.S. has had nothing to do with making this money. They charge them 35% on top of what they. Now, the U.S. subsidiary is going to say, I'm just going to leave the money in England and reinvest it in England. Now, as an example, you've got an English competitor that does the same thing as a subsidiary in England. They make the same profit. They pay the English 20% tax. They want to take that profit and invest it in the U.S. What are they taxed? Nothing. Zero. Zip. Now, just that's the example. What he's doing is proposing a tax plan that significantly reduces the cost of bringing that money back into this country. There's almost $3 trillion trapped overseas. And, the Democrats say they're unpatriotic for not bringing the money back. They're a business. They're about making money for their stockholders, for the owners of the company. They're not about paying for Obama's programs. And so by bringing that money in, remember, we had the stimulus program, $1 trillion, which was the biggest joke in the world. Can you imagine if there's $3 trillion coming back into this country, being reinvested by businesses? What kind of economic boom that is going to create? And some people say, well, they'll just give it to the stockholders. Well, yeah, they'll
Some of it.
some of it will go to dividends, and guess what? They're going to be
people.
taxed.
Yeah.
That dividend will be taxed by the government. So the government will get a significant
Portion of it.
portion. They will actually end up with more revenue, because right now they're getting nothing. Zero. It's all sitting overseas.
And it's expanding businesses overseas that might expand here in the United States.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that I'm really excited about, is that he's got a businessman's mentality about how to grow the economy. And when you grow the economy, you end up, and I like to say, my analogy is, the Democrats, we have a pie here, and the Democrats, they keep taking a bigger and bigger and bigger piece of the pie, and the pie keeps getting smaller. So they keep taking a bigger piece of a smaller pie. Under what Donald Trump is proposing, he's going to grow that pie, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. He's going to take a smaller piece of a much bigger pie. The end of the day, that's more revenue, more actual dollars. It's not a bigger percentage, but it's more actual dollars that are going into the government's coffers because the pie got so much bigger. And guess what? With a bigger pie, there's more money for the workers, there's more money for the stockholders, there's more money for
The
everybody.
economy goes up. And,
Right.
people don't seem to get that because we've been trying to sell that, but he seems to be doing a better job in selling it.
Because he has done it. He's a business person and people believe him. You know, I like to say, you've got all these politicians who talk about how they're going to create jobs. Donald Trump has done it. He has actually created jobs. He's a business person, as I have been and am, who has gone out there and had to meet a payroll. I mean, you look at most of these politicians, they've never had a real job. I don't consider being in politics a real job.
Right.
Where you actually create something and grow something and sacrifice. I mean, you don't have to sacrifice, other than losing the election, but, you don't go out there and risk it all and have to worry about sales, about making payroll, and all the other things that go into a successful business. Donald Trump has done that, and that's what people are saying. This guy can turn things around in this country.
I know there's a large group of people that will believe that and will follow him, but the Democrats in general have been very good at demonizing their opponents. And they've already started with Donald, obviously. And how is he going to combat that aspect?
Well,
of the
I've
election?
talked with a lot of my counterparts, Democrats, who will privately say they're scared to death of Donald Trump. They said, Senator Cruz, Jeb Bush, any of the other candidates, they had a cookie-cutter plan on how to campaign against them. They said, Donald Trump doesn't follow the rules. We don't know how to campaign against him. We take the gloves off with Donald Trump, he's going to show up with a baseball bat. We just don't know what to expect. And I think Donald Trump, as everybody's determined, when you go up against Donald Trump,
Yeah.
You're not going to be like Mitt Romney. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not. Donald Trump
We'll come back
will
with a
come
heavier
back
piece of equipment.
twice as hard as
Yeah.
what you give him.
Well,
And
how do
that's what they're afraid of.
So how are you polls tracing some of that? Are they seeing, they talk about women, they talk about blacks, they talk about Hispanics all being against him, but I don't see all that.
I don't see all of that, but more importantly, I go back to, and that's what everybody says, what you just said. What about the 47% of the people who
that didn't
vote?
Yeah.
What if Donald Trump brings in, and is bringing in, 10% of those people?
Yeah.
Remember, Mitt Romney lost by 4 points.
Oh, yeah.
He brings 10% of those 47% of the people back into the political process. He's going to blow the doors off of Hillary if she isn't in jail.
Yeah, that's an amazing point, too.
And as an example, he is crossing all lines. In the state of Massachusetts, which I worked in very hard as well, we had 100,000 Democrats change party affiliation to vote in the primary for Donald Trump.
Really?
What does that tell you? You know what it tells me and what we look at on the ground? Massachusetts might actually be in play. Not only are we going to win in New Hampshire, we could win in Massachusetts for the first time since 1984.
That would be great.
That is what's happening. And the politicians, the Republicans today, don't yet get it. And I think some of them are starting with the last Quinnipiac poll that came out 2 days ago, showing Donald Trump ahead in Ohio against Clinton and neck, down a point in Pennsylvania, which we haven't taken in years, and in Florida.
Well,
They're saying, oh, maybe I should reconsider. We need to get all Republicans behind Donald Trump. We have to have a united ticket because I think Donald Trump is going to have huge coattails going forward. And they're not going to be the traditional coattails that you're used to. It's going to be, and everybody talks about we got to broaden our tent, make our tent bigger. Donald Trump's doing that in a big way because he's bringing people into the process who haven't been in it for decades. And those people are going to vote for Donald Trump and anybody who's supporting Donald Trump. And, you know, anybody, any Republican that doesn't understand that and doesn't get on board and get behind Donald Trump is making a big political mistake, because Donald Trump will win and Donald Trump will bring anybody who's supporting them along. So, you know, I urge any Republican candidate out there, think long and hard about not supporting Donald Trump, because he will be the candidate who takes us forward, who greatly increases the size of our party and brings tremendous success to our party in November
I think
of
you'd bring
2016.
more vigor to the party. I think the party is a little bit, I don't know, it's not as
Well, believe me,
vibrant.
there's a lot of
People
enthusiasm.
yeah, right.
Believe me, I've been at all of these Donald Trump events, standing up in front of all these people, tens of thousands of people, and I have never, ever seen the level of energy that I see at a Donald Trump event, ever. Well, and I will have to give credit. There's something going on the Democratic side too, because Bernie Sanders has the same level of energy. But the interesting thing is, when you talk to people who are supporting Bernie Sanders, they're saying, I will support Donald Trump before I will support Hillary Clinton. And because they're against the establishment. The establishment has taken care of their people,
right,
but they've ignored the American citizen. And
I don't think people realize how much they've ignored the people they say they're fighting for.
Well, it sounds, oh, I'm fighting for you, but they're not.
No.
On the Democratic side, they're fighting for Greenpeace, they're fighting for the Audubon Society, they're fighting for Sierra Nevada Club, there's, you know, the anti-coal people, the anti-oil people, but not the American citizen. Right. And they say, we know best for you. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. But they're not taking care of people.
We've run out of time, and I know you want to say something about how people can join your campaign.
Basically, you know, now that the primary season is winding down, we still have our office up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we will be working hard to bring everybody on the Republican side together behind Donald Trump. And you can go to our website and start signing up if you haven't already signed up during the primary season. If you supported another candidate and your candidate you know, has dropped out, we welcome you. We want you involved. We want you to help us help Donald Trump make America great again.
Very good. I hope you'll come back during the campaign and tell us how everything's going. And,
I absolutely will, and I will do my best if Mr. Trump is up in the Northeast here to see if I can get him here as well.
Well, very good. I hope you can, and it'll be. I'm sure our audience would enjoy it.
Excellent.
And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carl. It's been a pleasure.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.